Well, hello everybody. This is the Odyssey Geek, and today I'm going to be reviewing some episodes from the Odyssey. Oh, sorry, that's so hard to get past. It's the Adventures in Odyssey Club. Um, First off, I just want to say that this year I'm going to be reviewing the Adventure in Odyssey Club episodes a little bit differently than I have in the past. All the episodes this year is going to be single episodes, not multi-parts. And since I'm really behind in reviewing the actual album episodes, I'm going to be doing live streams of all the Odyssey. I did it again. The Adventures in Odyssey Club episodes for this year because they're a lot easier to do, so I can focus more on the regular album episodes and some different videos. And after this video, hopefully to get out in March. Actually, it is March right now. But later this month, hopefully, I'm going to be reviewing Find a Penny, so I can start album 63. So today, I'm going to be reviewing the first two episodes from season 5 of the Adventure in Odyssey Club, which is Rewinding the Big Picture and Met His Match. So like I said earlier, make sure, if you haven't heard these episodes yet, don't keep watching this. Listen to the episodes first because I'm going to be talking spoilers in this. All right. First off, Rewinding the Big Picture, which was written by Bob Hoose, directed by Phil Lawler, and sound design by Christopher Deal, and music by John Campbell. The first thing that really stood out to me on this episode was the new voice for Camilla. I knew that they were having a new voice for her, but I think I kind of forgot about it until I heard this episode. And it took me a little while to get into it, but after hearing it for I think I've heard this episode about 3 times now. I've gotten used to it, and it's kind of getting annoying because they've replaced all the actors for the Parker kids so many times. But if we keep those characters around, I guess I'm okay with it. This episode kind of reminded me a little bit of Hindsight, where Liz goes backwards in time, like from a situation and then going back and trying to figure out what happened. This was a little bit similar to that. And, we haven't had the Room of Consequence since, I think, album 56, The Grand Design, if I'm not mistaken. And, the Room of Consequence is a little bit different than the Imagination Station. You have to have something really compelling to make it different because there's only so many times you can, go into the future or see how things happen. So I thought, trying to redo the same event over in your life was really, really cool. I'm sure we've all at one point or another have wanted to have that ability to go back and fix something. Another thing that kind of reminded me of Hindsight was when Camilla was talking to Maisie and Noah, that kid dropped his lunch and everyone started laughing at him. It kind of reminded me of, when Norton, fell down the bus and everybody started laughing at him. So that kind of reminded me of that as well. And I think it was Noah that mentioned something about, about nonverbal communication or kinesics or body language or something like that, which was which I think I heard this episode before I started, but I'm actually taking a class in college right now that's talking about like nonverbal communication. So kind of stood out to me, and especially with radio, they talk about acting for radio drama is a lot harder than video because people can't see you, so you have to have everything in your voice project how the character is supposed to be feeling. So it was a kind of a nod to that kind of acting. And it took me for a while why Maisie was so upset. When I think Noah said like, need some help, Grandpa, which of course was mean. But I didn't catch until later why she's so upset about that. Also, I found it kind of funny about Camilla, when Whit was typing everything about what happened, which are you gonna use a story for other kids later or something like that? Because I'm sure Whit has done that in the past. One thing that was kind of odd, which was different from past Room of Consequence adventures, was Camilla having to say engage to start the program, because in the past, I may be mistaken by the about this, but all the times I think you just close the door and go inside, and then you let the lights go out, and then the sounds happen. It's a little bit different, but I guess I'm okay with that. It wasn't a big change, not as big of a change as removing the red button from the imagination station. But I'm not going to open that can of worms today. I was happy that the Room of Consequence sounds was pretty much the same. I really, really like that. It's not quite as distinctive as the Imagination Station, but it is probably almost on the same level as that. So I'm glad the sound effects were used the same. And speaking of sound effects, this is if they had like the Avery Awards for the club episodes, I think this one would probably win for best sound. Let's see, it was Christopher Deal that did the sound design on this, and he did a really great job because there's so much rewinding and stopping and like freeze framing kind of thing, and there's so many different inflections in the voice and EQ and all that. It made the episode so compelling and so it's just the things they go above and beyond on Odyssey to make it sound really well. And you could have had just a little bit of sound effects here and there for this, but having it the way they had it makes episodes so much more engaging. I do want to say, even though the Rim of Consequence is not necessarily a realistic depiction of life, Imagination Station usually is. Like when see, I think it was for $3 more. About the bank robber, and because Bear didn't tithe, all of Odyssey collapse or whatever. But I think kind of the Balloon Empire state building thing that Camilla made was really unrealistic and kind of didn't fit. Like, really, I mean, in the Consequence, you probably do whatever you want, but in real life, you wouldn't be able to make that role, make that. It would take you a long time. In other words, like, who wants to spend that much time in the machine building that? But it was. I liked how she could rewind to like certain parts, and kind of seeing how if we could go over a situation, how we would change things about it, and she did a lot of changing over that. I kind of chuckled when she was like wanting to pray with her, and she started kind of speaking like a villain, with a voice like this and that kind of stuff. The one thing I thought was, again, I guess it was kind of unrealistic, but Wit let her add the secret weapon with the band, the elephants, and all that. But I know Camilla's pretty young, but really, I don't know how that cheered me up, or anybody that age would be cheered up by that, especially in the school, especially having that much attention. But again, it's the Room of Consequence, so I'll let it slide because not everything that happens in there is really super realistic. I think I might have read somewhere something that made this point that Wit could have just told her you can't actually change anything, or we're not supposed to be able to go back in our lives and fix stuff. But I think sometimes showing is better than telling, and I think Wit usually does a good job of this. He could say, well, you could go over this aspect, but you still wouldn't get it right, or you still wouldn't be happy with the result with it. But I mean, using the Room of Consequence was a great way for him to make that point. In his talk to Camilla, I think the next to last scene was a really good one, and reminding us we don't know what's going to happen now. Like, what we do now, we do because in the moment, we feel that it's what we're supposed to do, but we don't know the future, which kind of the Consequence kind of shows like a possible future, which it did. But we don't have an actual thing to do that, so that's what we need to rely on God to work His plan out, even though we can't see it happening. And this last scene, this last scene is probably, I'd say, one of the best scenes on Odyssey ever, for emotional scene. First, I think this is the first mention of Alzheimer's on Odyssey, if I'm not mistaken. I know like there's been talk about like Agnes with her mental illness, but I'm not quite. I don't think they said exactly what it was. I don't know if it was trauma or what it was, but I don't think it was Alzheimer's. I may be wrong. Um, I thought it was kind of interesting, that Maisie called her grandfather Pop Pop. I think that's. I've heard lots of names for grandpa over the years, but I'm not sure if I've known anybody that called their grandpa Pop Pop. But hey, to each his own. But it was such a sweet ending. Um, with Camilla being there, and Maisie not knowing much about church or God or anything, and Camilla was the one to step in and pray for him, and also like him singing "Great Is Thy Faithfulness." All of that was just so incredible and so moving, and it kind of reminds me of a story. I think some of my church talked about this older gentleman that used to be in the church and a real saint of God, and his mind went away, and he had to be in a nursing home, I think, and I can't remember if it was his roommate or someone that came to visit him. This person, they could barely remember people and events and all that. But I think one time, or maybe been several times, basically said so the person's name, said, "Let's pray," and just like that, it's like it was gone, and he could pray. He was just praying like he would, like he was in church, like he was himself again. And then after that, he was back to being the state he was. But that kind of reminded me of that. God, God's saving grace goes beyond whatever our physical ailments are and what we're facing. So even in the midst of that, it's a comfort, especially for people that have family members that have Alzheimer's or other diseases like that. When God saves it, He does a miracle, and no physical aspects, no illnesses can take that away if we're committed to God. So and this episode, it was kind of a funny episode, kind of dramatic, but I think it was a perfect blend. And I actually really like this episode, and I think it's probably one of the best episodes that Bob Hoose has written, and also probably one of the best sound designed episodes that Christopher Deal did on this. So I don't think it was a perfect episode, but it was really good, and I really liked it. So I'm not sure if I give it 5 stars. I don't know if it's like one of my favorite episodes, but I think it's one of the best. So I think I'll probably give it 4.5 stars out of 5. All right, and moving on, we have Met His Match, which I think was actually before, or the working title or something before was actually called Wits Women, which I'm glad they changed that name. I found it kind of interesting that Connie would want to have like a dating profile online. I mean, you don't always get the best of people through that. I know there's some people that have found their Mr. or Mrs. Right before, but I don't know. I mean, Connie's getting back to her desperate stage, but really in her past, like with Mitch and Jeff and all that, it's kind of happened naturally. So I mean, and for the plot device for the story, I thought it worked well with it, but and it's funny, but I don't know. I don't know if Connie would do it, but I guess since it was anonymous, it makes a little more sense. Like she said, she wanted someone that likes her for what she is, not what she looks like. Which I still think that if Connie was to get married, I think Jeff would be the better match for her. I'm sure people might disagree with me about that, but I never really, at this point, I don't think Mitch at all would have been a good fit for her. But okay, that's probably one can of worms I probably opened just there. Moving on, I like the mention about that she likes to plan weddings, and Penny mentioned that's one way to freak out a single guy. I really liked Olivia's impression of Wit, like her on a low voice like this, and that's funny. Very few people imitate Wit, and that was pretty good. And one thing that had me wondering, which I'm sure other people did too, was in the profile. Connie says she's working on her degree, but what degree? She's done chemistry, which I think is more like a core class. Like my major isn't in that, but I had to take like some science classes. But she's taken, I think, at least 2 art classes. I think maybe. So maybe she's doing like me in design or something like that. But I think the writer's keeping it pretty ambiguous right now. And I thought was really funny was, um, the profile, Connie's profile saying like not interested in an FBI agent. I'm sure that probably ticked some people off, but I thought it was pretty funny. And also, Wit's profile, talking about occasionally saving the world. That's kind of a meta reference, Blackguard and Novacom, and I guess maybe Green Ring too. But that was pretty funny. And we actually, this time we got a mention of Lucia's business, which we haven't heard any mention of since Anger Mismanagement back in album 54, where David suggested, like, use the old van and go to people's houses and do haircuts and stuff like that. But we actually got a name for it this time. Scissors on Wheels, which is pretty good name for it, and is a nice reference. I love it. I love it when episodes, refer back to older episodes, which usually that's Nathan Hubler's. Nathan Hubler has a lot of that in his episodes. But this was Kathy Buchanan's episode, and I think she wrote Anger Mismanagement too. So I'm glad that she got to name it. The matchups for Wit. I know some people. Back when Gremlin's Christmas Visit was released, it's in the album version. It's not the radio version, but the album version has a scene where Wit and Lucia, after all the Christmas party thing was done, they were talking together, and people said like, "Oh, it's Wit and Lucia could be a good match and all that." And that scene, it kind of felt like that. I didn't really get a whole lot of vibes of that, but once we got to know her more, she's kind of a like Olivia has described her, cranky. I'm not sure that she's really cranky all the time. She's spunky, I guess you'd call it. But I don't think she'd be a good match for Wit at all. And I loved her line about Wit's mustache could hide a hoagie in it. Mrs. Kramer. I thought that was funny. I think I found that out because I was following like the recording sessions on Facebook. So I think that wasn't a total surprise, but I might have guessed on that. I'm not sure. That was pretty funny, but unfortunately, I think the scene was way too short. I know there's not a whole lot with Lucia, but I wish there was a little bit more with Mrs. Kramer in this episode. It was like one scene. It was very brief. I think there could have been a lot more material, funny material out of that. And one thing that's kind of interesting is that the one that plays Mrs. Kramer, which is, I'm looking it up here. Thank you, AIO Wiki. Mitzi McCall is the same one that played Edith Sutton, which in the past was the one that had a really really strong affection for Wit back in Here Today, Gone Tomorrow, and Broken Arm and Dangerous, that made Wit really uncomfortable. So it's kind of interesting that Mrs. Kramer, which is played by the same person, kind of had that too. But I wish there was some mention of Mrs. Sutton, but that could have been pretty funny too. But it'd be kind of hard having both of the same characters played by the same actor in there because their voices are pretty similar. Speaking of new voices, at least for the last episode, there's a new voice for Dr. Graham, which I think is Kay Bess. Let me double check on that. Yes, Kay Bess, who took over from see. The name escapes me now. Lori Tritel, who sadly I think she died last year if I'm not mistaken. But I was kind of not wanting that, and I kind of want. I know someone mentioned like me just making a new character, but since the past few albums, Dr. Graham has become a really, like I've said in my review of One More Name, that she's become a much more three-dimensional character and a really, really good one, even more so than Dr. Morton. But I don't think the voice is too different. She still has that warmth and the kind of voice that you think that from like a doctor or a nurse or something like that. Which I'm actually liking KBS's take on the character, and I think I'm okay with that. I just looked at the comment section here, and Riley just mentioned it says, all I hear is Jason, Jason, Jason. I disagree. Yeah, I forgot about that. Some people would like Connie and Jason together, but my personal feelings for it, I don't think so. Jason and Tasha, if Tasha ever got saved, or Tasha and Monica, which I think I might be probably more towards Tasha and Monica. I'm sorry, not Tasha and Monica, Jason and Monica. I didn't really catch on into the last scene that Wit and Lucia were faking it on like them liking each other. I'm not quite sure. The episode is kind of unclear about when. I think when they started playing it up. I think they actually did have a good time together, like with the meal that Penny made for them. But I don't know if that they caught on then. I'm sure they had a good time, which I was pretty sure that they wouldn't get together. Especially the club episode, that'd be a major thing that would happen. And I'm sure fans would be up in arms, including me, if that happened on the club and not the regular episodes, if that was something real important that happened. But just in the back of my mind, I wondered, like, is there a possibility? Which I wasn't opposed to the idea. I mean, we're getting married again, I might be opposed to, but if it would happen, I do think that Dr. Graham would probably be a good fit for Wit. I don't know if other people agree with that or not, but I think so. But it also had me having flashbacks to, excuse me, kind of gave me flashbacks to For Whom the Wedding Bells Toll, with Wit and Margaret Faye, which her personality is so different from Dr. Lily. But I kind of got that, but that was more of a natural thing. But this we're kind of playing it up, which when Penny and Olivia came in to Wits End the day later, and kind of talking about them whispering and all that, I think I kind of started to catch on that they might know. But once they announced, yeah, we're getting married, like, oh yeah, they know. But it was I think it was really good. It's like, this is what would happen if like maybe some fan fiction, maybe. Like I've said before, if us Odyssey fans had an actual say in what happens to characters, we probably mess up Odyssey pretty badly. But it was kind of felt like that, like them like, oh, we're getting married, I'm gonna sell Wits End and move away, and I mean, I guess yeah, Jack and Joanne are gone, and if Jason could take over Wits End, but they had to close down the antique shop. But thankfully that didn't happen. But I thought it was funny. Wit's very mischievous, and he likes having people learn lessons. And I did not catch on, I don't think, and I don't think I caught on at all that Connie was part of the plan, which I'm not sure when she was involved. Maybe during the meal or the day after, maybe. But Connie usually, in some episodes in the past, she would have been like, Connie and Penny would have been the one doing the dating profile for Wit. But in the past, I just listened to Have You Know Cell Perks I think a couple days ago, and Connie was part of that. Connie's usually on the receiving end of the lessons, but I'm glad that she wasn't caught up into that, and also helped, show that her character has matured a little bit. And the ending part, we're finding out that the reason Connie's profile didn't get any views or hits or whatever, is because of that. It talked about her illustrious mustache, which was pretty funny. This episode was really funny, and I think very unique. There's a lot of laugh out loud moments, which I really liked. And actually, for a very funny episode, it had a pretty good lesson in it about, you don't want to, you don't know what's God's will for somebody, and you want to let that between them and God. Which actually, this episode kind of follows a little bit with the last episode, rewinding the big picture. About that lesson, like, we don't know the big picture, we don't know God's plan. We're doing our best what He wants us to do now, and let Him handle it. So those two episodes actually kind of work hand in hand. I don't know if that's gonna be the theme throughout this whole season, but I know these two episodes kind of had that feeling with it. But I thought it was a very good episode, and I really don't think there was anything I disliked about this episode, really. Like I said, I like the voice for Dr. Graham. I'm okay with it. It's not a dislike at all. I think I'm gonna actually give this episode 5 stars out of 5. It's a very funny episode, very unique storyline that we haven't really heard much before, and a pretty good lesson. And I think Kathy Buchanan wrote Do or Die It too, if I'm not mistaken. Let me pull that up real quick. I think this episode is probably just as funny. Yep, Do or Die It was written by Kathy Buchanan. So yeah, I think these are probably Kathy's 2 best funny episodes, and I think it's almost just as good as Do or Die It. But yeah, 5 stars for me on that. Well, that's all I had to talk about today. Thanks to everyone that's watched this live stream. I know I didn't have a lot of notice, and my schedule was really rushed, so I don't usually know if I'm going to be able to do these kinds of things up until the time I get to do them. But if you weren't able to watch the whole thing, or didn't have a chance to add your comments to the conversation, this video will be up and ready to watch in its entirety soon. At least partially edited. I might edit the first part out, so it's a little bit more easier to watch. But you can still add your comments to this episode. Make sure to let me know what you thought about these episodes, and about, who you think that Whit or Connie should marry, or should they marry at all. And what you thought about the Room of Consequence adventure with Camilla. What you thought that last scene especially. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. And if you haven't yet, Odyssey Geek is on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, Instagram. You can follow me on there, get updates on the videos, and status updates on what's happening there. And also, if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel, so as soon as when I do live streams like this, you'll be notified of it. And whenever new videos come out that I upload, you'll find out about those as well. We're almost to 50 subscribers, which I like 47 right now, I think, which is really awesome. I thank everyone for that. But if there's someone out there that you think would enjoy this channel, if they love Odyssey as much as you do, or maybe they should like it more, feel free to share this channel with them. And yeah. So thank you again for everybody for watching. I really appreciate it, and I hope you had fun, and we'll see you next time. Bye.